Have you ever felt trapped, with no way out? Imagine an entire nation feeling that way, with an army hot on their heels and a vast, uncrossable sea blocking their path. This isn't the plot of a new blockbuster movie. It's one of the most incredible stories ever told, the story of the parting of the Red Sea. Our story begins in ancient Egypt, where the Israelites had been enslaved for hundreds of years. But a leader emerged from among them, a man named Moses, who went before the mighty Pharaoh and demanded, "Let my people go." Pharaoh, his heart hardened, refused time and time again. It took 10 devastating plagues, each a direct challenge to the gods of Egypt, to finally break his will. After the 10th and most terrible plague, a grieving Pharaoh finally relented and told the Israelites to leave. So, they left, not as a small band of refugees, but as a great multitude, hundreds of thousands of men, women, and children, along with their livestock, beginning their journey toward a promised land of freedom. They had just begun to taste liberty when news reached Pharaoh. His grief had turned to rage. How could he have let his entire workforce just walk away? He summoned his army, the most formidable military machine of the ancient world. 600 of his best chariots, along with all the other chariots of Egypt, thundered across the desert in pursuit. The Israelites, meanwhile, had reached the shores of the Red Sea. They looked ahead and saw an impassable body of water. Then, they looked behind them, and a cloud of dust on the horizon grew larger and larger, the glint of bronze and the thunder of hooves signaling the approach of Pharaoh's army. Panic erupted. They were trapped. They cried out to Moses, their fear turning to anger. "Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us to the desert to die? It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness." It was a moment of absolute crisis. Their newfound freedom seemed like a cruel joke, a brief interlude before a tragic end. But in this moment of ultimate desperation, Moses stood firm. He raised his voice above the cries of panic and declared, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." Then, a divine intervention unlike any other began to unfold. The pillar of cloud that had been guiding the Israelites moved from before them and stood behind them, positioning itself between the camp of Israel and the camp of the Egyptians. To the Israelites, it was a guiding light, but to the Egyptians, it was a cloud of darkness, holding them back through the night. As the night wore on, Moses, following God's command, stretched his hand out over the sea. A strong east wind began to blow, and it blew all through the night. The waters of the Red Sea began to churn and then to separate. The sea divided, and the water stood up like two massive walls, one on their right and one on their left. A path of dry ground appeared right through the middle of the sea. Can you imagine the awe and terror of that moment? Stepping onto the seabed, with towering walls of water held back on either side, walking on ground that should have been deep beneath the waves. One by one, family by family, the entire nation of Israel walked through the sea on dry land. It was a miracle of epic proportions, a pathway to safety carved through the heart of impossibility. When the last Israelite had reached the other side, the Egyptian army, blinded by their pursuit, charged into the sea passage after them. Their chariots, the pride of their military, bogged down in the mud of the seabed. Confusion and chaos took hold. They realized they were not just fighting the Israelites, they were fighting against God himself. "Let's get away from the Israelites," they cried. "The Lord is fighting for them against Egypt." But it was too late. As dawn broke, Moses once again stretched his hand out over the sea. The walls of water collapsed. The sea returned to its full strength, crashing down upon the entire Egyptian army. Chariots, horses, and soldiers were swept away in the churning torrent. Not one of them survived. As the sun rose that morning, the Israelites stood safely on the far shore, looking back at the sea. The bodies of their former captors washed up on the beach. Their fear was gone, replaced by a profound sense of awe and gratitude. They were truly free. The threat was gone, not just for a day, but forever. That day, they sang a song of praise, a song of victory and deliverance that has been passed down through millennia. The story of the Red Sea crossing is more than just an ancient tale. It's a powerful story of hope in the face of despair, of faith when all seems lost, and of a power greater than any earthly army. It reminds us that even when we feel trapped between an impossible obstacle and a pursuing threat, a way forward can be made where there seems to be no way. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible tales from history. See you in the next video.